It is Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Overcast skies and 62 degrees right now in downtown Wausau at our studios from the corner of Washington Street and North 3rd Street. Talked in our first segment about the No Kings rally that was held here in central Wisconsin in Rib Mountain on Saturday.
Yeah.
Very large crowd that appeared. There were a couple of other major stories that occurred over the weekend. Of course, there was the parade that was held in Washington, D.C. in honor of the Army's 250th birthday. I'm going to talk a bit about that later on in the program. But also there was a tragedy early Saturday morning.
I heard about this.
It's almost too horrific to think that things like this happen in this country. But Democratic Minnesota State Representative, former Speaker Melissa Hortman, and her husband were assassinated in their own home, while Democratic Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were both miraculously not killed. I mean, when you hear what happened to Senator Hoffman and his wife, I believe the numbers were 9 times the senator was shot, 8 times his wife was shot, and somehow they survived, which is just a miracle. And over the weekend, people were watching, waiting for this suspect, a 57-year-old man named Vance Bolter, to be caught. He was on the run for much of the weekend. And then finally last night, just before I was going to bed, word came down that authorities had arrested Bolter. And there are so many layers to this that are disturbing. Number one is that this man committed the crimes while dressed up as a police officer and driving an SUV made to look like a police vehicle. You open the door and you see somebody who looks like a police officer, and you would just assume to trust that person. And for that person then to kill these elected officials in Minnesota is awful, because what happens the next time a police officer is looking for somebody that's committed a crime in a neighborhood, knocks on a door? You can't, the idea of having that mistrust in the back of your head is just scary, because maybe it could be 99.9%. There'll be no problem that it's a police officer serving the public. But then there's this 1%, 0.1% where this person is using folks' trust in a law officer in order to get into their home and hurt them or even kill them. So the good news is an incredible amount of great work was done by authorities in Minnesota to arrest Vance Bolter, who will appear in court later today. But I have to say that at a certain point, average conservatives have to stand up and tell the President of the United States and other lackeys thereof that in certain circumstances, you have to be better. And yesterday, Donald Trump, instead of doing the ultimate layup, the ultimate simplest thing you can do in a circumstance like this, refused to do it. When Donald Trump had his life threatened in Pennsylvania last summer, immediately the President of the United States, Joe Biden, reached out to Trump and his team, reached out to everyone saying this is beyond the pale, this is wrong, 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 sending best wishes. Yesterday, Trump was asked, well, are you going to reach out to the governor who is leading the response on this? And Donald Trump needed to say, well, I might, but he's doing a terrible job. He's a terrible governor.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Why can't he be presidential even for a moment? And then last night, instead of, again, trying to bring together a country in the aftermath of such a tragedy, last evening, as the manhunt was continuing, Trump posted another rant on his Truth Social site, lying that Democrats are, quote, sick of mind, hate our country, and all actually want to destroy our inner cities. There is something wrong with them, end quote. And then he went on to say that what he's been doing in Los Angeles, he's going to spread to Chicago and New York and other large cities, which he calls the core of the Dem Power Center, where they use illegal aliens to expand their voter base. So continuing to add gasoline to the fire that is going on in this country. I mentioned earlier that during the No Kings rally that I attended on Saturday in Rib Mountain, there was nothing like this kind of hatred. That this was about trying to make our America the best America could possibly be. But it's not up to me or you or others maybe that disagree with the president to call him out. It's time for those conservatives who I think want our country to be better to start calling out this kind of behavior. And I didn't even get into Senator Mike Lee of Utah, which I'm going to touch on in the next hour, because to talk about disgusting, it does not get much more disgusting than Senator Mike Lee. But I call on conservatives, if they don't think this is right, to stand up finally and say something.
Please.
Information update coming up here on 98.9 WXCO.